Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm here in the BA Test Kitchen to have a super secret conversation about Chris Morocco. Once again, we're putting Chris's super taster abilities to the test. This is Ina Garten's lobster pot pie. I'm challenging Chris to recreate this dish with all the ingredients in just one day. He'll be able to taste it, touch it, smell it, but at no point will he be able to see the dish. At the end of the day, we'll come back to see his final creation, and I'll be the judge.
Fascinating. Yeah, so we seem to have like a pastry topper fit inside like a rather large, I mean, we're kind of past a ramekin. 1, 2, 3 steam vents cut into the pastry, making me think that what's underneath has like a high amount of like, you know, moisture, liquid. Oh, wow. Oh, it's a double crust pie. Oh, that's interesting. It's a very tender crust and very salty. I'm wondering if, you know, in addition to perhaps like an egg wash across the top, got a sprinkling of salt. Like this to me does not taste like puff pastry. This feels like a short crust pastry. Seem to have a baby pea. Got a pearl onion. Finally, maybe finding some protein here. Yeah, this tastes to me like lobster. It's got that like shellfish, like shrimpy flavor. It's very creamy, very rich. Some combination of like roux, dairy. We probably need to make some sort of lobster stock. Maybe some corn, like corn kernels in here. That tells me a lot. There's a lot going on here. We're gonna have to unpack like how to put this together in a way that's like not gonna take all day. Yeah, little intimidated, but at least like I have a pretty decent sense of like what the players are, but the question of how to recreate this in line with whatever the chef kind of chose to do is gonna be the big question of the day. Wow. Okay, so pastry. That'll be the first thing we make. AP flour, I'm gonna say butter. It's basically pie dough, but does it have egg in it for like a little bit of extra strength? I almost wanna make 2 different doughs. Lobster, and we're gonna make lobster stock. This is where it's like a grab bag. I'm not saying I tasted it, but like what I might expect to find in there would be bay leaf, corn, peas, pearl onion, yellow onion, heavy cream. Like you need a very dense, tight mixture. All right, this is a bit of an intimidating list, and frankly, the prep on this dish is gonna be a little bit intimidating, but somebody's gonna go out and shop, and I will have my first attempt to see how it goes. Okay, so we're just gonna dive right into pastry because we need time to let the dough rest after I make it. Now would be as good a time as any to mention the fact that I don't actually have a pie dough recipe memorized. It's like one of the old, like maybe it's on the back of the bag tricks, but not today. So that's 300 grams of flour. I feel like the ratio is like 2 parts flour, 2 parts fat, 1 part liquid. I'm gonna use a 1/4 cup. So what we're looking for is that moment where there's just enough hydration that the dough will hold together when squeezed. Feeling like there's a lot of butter in here. So that's the version without egg. So that was like a pretty reasonable amount of dough. So I'm gonna stick with the 300 grams of flour. I was into that. Let's try 200 grams for this one. So slightly less fat this time. Most of the liquid, if not all, is gonna come from the egg. Should give me a slightly firmer dough, perhaps like a slightly less flaky and tender dough. But the key thing here is we need to put an egg already beaten. The egg is gonna account for some of the liquid in the dough, but not all of it, I don't believe. There's a couple tablespoons of ice water. And honestly, like pie dough is one of those things You can be like a very experienced baker, relatively speaking, and still get like utterly humiliated by pie dough every once in a while. Starts to crack when you roll it. It just doesn't want to cooperate. I hope it's not one of those days today. I'm gonna use each of these doughs in a version of the dish and see how they bake up side by side. I was expecting a live lobster to come out. I'd say first things first, we need to break down the lobster. We want to save the shells though, because that's what we're going to use to make our stock, okay? So I'm just gonna leave the meat in bigger pieces for the minute, just while I break down the rest of this stuff. The next thing we're gonna do, we need these to be like bite-sized pieces. It's a lot of prep and a lot of work that goes into lobster, you know? So now we're gonna make lobster stock. If you're thinking, how do we get more lobster flavor in there? But you have to have a liquid in the first place to form the base of the stew. Wouldn't you wanna just make like a lobster stock with the shells you already have? I'm gonna slice up an onion. You can put the lobster shells directly in water and extract a certain amount of flavor. When you sear them first, you create way more deep, rich, and intense flavors. I'm just gonna use like half of this onion. I'm gonna do some bay, maybe a teaspoon of black peppercorns, and then I'm gonna use white wine, just looking for a little bit of brightness and a little bit of character. All right, so there's our water, and I'm just gonna let that kind of roll along. And then meanwhile, we can work on the other elements that go into the stew. I've got corn. Actually, let's cut that off the cob while we're here. So I got the pearl onion in this stew, but I also got little pieces of diced onion, or so I believe. Need some richness in here. I don't know, I'm gonna take like maybe 4 tablespoons of butter. All right, so there is our diced onion. And we need to cook that out till the onion is softened. So right now it looks like a lot of fat, but we're gonna bind this with flour, make a roux on top of that onion, and then we're gonna strain our lobster stock and use that as our liquid to create the stew. I think this is a good time to introduce the cream, and that's gonna tell me exactly how thick this is. I mean, the flavor is actually pretty good, I have to say. We're gonna cook the pearl onions right in here. I'm gonna throw the corn in here now. I'm going to let this go at a slow roll until the pearl onions are tender. Meanwhile, we're gonna go over, get set up to roll out the pastry and head towards our final assembly, finally. So this is a hot mixture right now. We do not wanna put warm stew mixture into the pastry. So I don't wanna go like crazy thin here because I need this to hold. Beautiful disc of dough going in here. Size is good. This is the one with the yolk. Much like dogs and bees, the dough can sense fear, you know? You have to just like not let it know how you're feeling. Even when you're ready to just like walk away and throw your rolling pin at something in frustration, honestly, like that's the moment to just like lean in, have no fear. All right, now our mixture is cold. This is the point at which I'm going to put the lobster in. Also, I want to put the pea. A little bit of liquid from the pea got in there. That sucks. We'll be all right. Let's see what it looks like with a cup of mixture in there. It is nice that like forming it inside the cup shape of this bowl, you can really kind of press the edge of the pastry into it to like really, you know, kind of help create your seal. And yeah, we're gonna wash. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. All over there. Gonna put some slits in here, 3 in each. So you're gonna start at 425. Just give it an initial blast, get some color on it, all right? And then we're gonna tone it right down to cook everything through. So I guess I'm wondering right off the bat, like, did I put too much filling inside the pie? Is the pie about where it should be in terms of where the pastry is sitting relative to the scalloped edge? But you know, the proof is in the crust. So we're gonna have to taste them side by side. So first, crust with no yolk, very like pie dough style. It's interesting. I feel like I jumped through some hoops to make a lobster broth, right? You guys were there. And this has like a nice lobster flavor, but it's not like, oh, it's like got more lobster flavor than the original dish. Does it need some kind of flavor enhancement? I keep coming back to that idea of this like brandy or cognac, you know, kind of going in there, just giving this final little blast of flavor and richness, just backing up that like toasty crustacean, you know, kind of vibe. The crust itself is nice. I mean, it's flaky, it's tender. I'm curious to check it out in relation to the egg. I like that there's this slight substantiveness to it. I think the dough with the yolk is closer to the original in my mind. So we're gonna stick with that. Ingredient wise, I wanna say we're at an 80 here. I wanna say like we're looking pretty solid. Technique wise, like I'd be comfortable saying like 85. Appearance, a little bit of seepage, but a burnished golden pie in a thing. Come on, that's gotta be a 90, right? Flavor wise, this is like 85%. I don't feel bad about this at all. I think most people would be pretty happy to eat it. Just needs a little bit waking up and amping up. On this piece of paper, I have my actual scores. Ooh, I thought I was doing better than that. I wanted to believe I was doing better than that. What this makes me feel like is maybe I need to go the non-lobster stock route. What are you using for your liquid then? Is it only dairy? You definitely get kind of fish pie, you know? Yeah, feeling good about the forming technique. It's salty. The crust itself is very well seasoned, but there's gotta be some salt on top of this, like sprinkled on there, I would think. I'm getting creaminess, and I'm getting this, and this is where it's like, is it the lobster flavor that's simply poking through, shining through? Or is there like this hint of like a complex, like cognac? I think it really boils down to, is this getting the lobster flavor just from the inclusion of lobster in a pretty neutral chowder base? Or is there like a lobster broth? All right, so certain things are staying the same. Butter, sweating out the onion, building a roux on top of it with flour, cooking that out. But instead of using lobster stock, I'm just going only dairy. I'm looking for the richness and the thickness of cream, but I don't want it to be completely overwhelming. So I switched to, you know, half cream, half milk to just try to bring that sort of like dairy quality forward, but without making it just like insanely heavy. Dump, you know, all of the mix-ins in while it's hot. Try to extract a little bit of flavor that way. Nobody should ever peel pearl onions themselves. Like this is something like you see these at the grocery store, you buy them. We're going in with our lobster. Then see about a splash of like a cognac type thing. I don't know, I might just do like a really fine dice of some tarragon. Lobster and tarragon, two flavors that just work together. I'm grasping at straws here for ways to just like amp this up a little bit. I mean, the tarragon doesn't suck. Yeah, so I am ready to assemble our final pie here. We go with like a little bit more of like a scant cup of the mixture. Premier Cru Cognac, no, fuck it. No, we're not doing this. So we're gonna wash, cut, and sprinkle. I'm feeling really good about that. Color's awesome. Pastry's looking pretty good. Held together Today was a bit of a journey. The best part of the day was breaking apart the lobsters. Everything after that was pretty much downhill. I was at a 68 before. I think we all remember that. Do I think I was justified in taking out the lobster stock, but keeping most everything else the same? I don't know. I'm staying at 70. So technique-wise, maybe I got myself like 5 points. Appearance is maybe what I'm feeling best about. Like, I'm gonna go in hard with a 90 for appearance. 3 slits, pie, it's golden, it's beautiful. Nothing really to be upset about. Taste, I don't know. The big X factor here is, does it taste enough like lobster? Maybe 75. Time to put this up for judging, and if nothing else, I think I just need to be put out of my misery a little bit just to know like what went into this dish. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Chris.
I usually see you, kind of eating in the background.
Yeah, it's because I'm making the content for the TikTok. So this is a day I've been looking forward to. I'm very excited about it.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
I'm just saying, no need to prove anything here.
Are you ready to see the dish?
I certainly am. Thank you.
All right. May I present to you Ina Garten's lobster pot pie?
Ina Garten. Were there always that many slits on it?
So Ina's crust has lard, baking powder, and butter in it.
I'm curious about the baking powder. I mean, maybe that's what's kind of giving it this sort of like even, puffy rise a little bit. Just kind of looking at it, but I don't know. People who put lard in their pastry, like, I don't know.
So you think it's unnecessary?
I think it's unnecessary. Like, it doesn't usually have any flavor. And if it does have flavor, it's usually not good flavor.
So you said you made a lobster stock initially, and then you omitted the stock completely.
Yeah.
The original recipe called for fish stock.
My thing is, like, if you've got the lobster and you're taking the shells off yourself, like, just use the shells to make the thing.
There is no corn in
What?
this recipe.
I swear I was getting kernels of corn in there.
So in terms of like that anise flavor in there, one thing you were missing, there was Pernod in there.
Oh, interesting. I sort of like kicked around the notion that there could be some sort of like alcohol. Pernod is like an anise flavored liqueur, very popular in the south of France, and typically would be found in preparations like bouillabaisse.
When you look at the ingredient list, the Pernod sticks out as like, wait, this is all really accessible, and then I'm gonna have to make a special trip for
Something very specific.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't, the weird thing about Pernod is like you wouldn't replace it easily with something else. I don't know, who wants perfect?
Well, should we taste them?
Yeah. I went to a lobster place because I got a piece of lobster, and that was like the main kind of like clue there. But like that tastes a lot more like fish pie without fish in it to me. If I'm gonna do lobster, I'm gonna go like double down on lobster.
Yeah.
This I kind of felt like I ended up making something that was sort of neither here nor there.
Let's give yours a taste. You get like a nice piece of crust on here.
All respect and everything, like I think my pastry's better.
But I mean, the challenge is to recreate the dish. So
If my default is not to put chemical leavening in short crust pastry, I'm not just gonna do it. But part of the challenge too is just being able to, can you make a short crust pastry off the top of your head? You don't have a recipe in front of you, right? Can you do something that's like actually working, that's holding together? But yeah, like I said, I mean, believe me, nobody's more disappointed in me than me.
So we'll talk scores.
Yeah.
For ingredients, you gave yourself a 70. I gave you a 69. So we're pretty close to par there. Technique, you gave yourself 78. I'm gonna bump you up to 82.
All right.
I think your approach to the sauce this time around, I think the leaning on the dairy more, I think it was a good move, even if it was not the right move. You gave yourself 90, I'm gonna say 77.
Okay.
Finally, taste-wise, you gave yourself 75 for this pie. I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I'm gonna say 78 for yours. And overall, that brings you to a 77 for the entire endeavor. How do you feel?
Honestly, the day felt like a D. So like 77 is like, I will take that.
Chris, let's talk.
And that's pretty much all I have to say. Cool.
I'm good with that.
Great. I'm great with that.
Can you just say see you next time?
See you next time.